must say that I owe a deep debt of gratitude to the West Indies, to the Caribbean. For the Caribbean gave me my father, my mother. I love these islands, and I love the people that inhabit these islands. I will never feel that I've done the job that God brought me here to do unless I complete my journey, my life's journey, with some help and guidance to the Caribbean that gave me life. We have to look in the mirror of truth and recognize that we are not yet free. The real fight is going to have to take place in order for us to be free, and we're going to have to take on power that keeps us in this condition. You charge me with all of these evil things because you're afraid of what is in my mouth, what is in my head, and what is in my heart. You don't have a scared to death black man in front of you. I challenge all of you. Meet me before the world and prove that I am what you call me, or get up off it. And you know you can't prove it. There comes a time in every man and woman's life you have to make up your mind, because the future depends on how strong we are with God and how strong we are on the principles of truth. See, when you can say, I fear God and fear Him alone, you're free.
Members stir. We watched Alderman Streeter as he had already set a strong, bold record, standing up for black people, standing up for the champion of black people's cause, standing up for the little man and little woman in the streets. Why you think they call him Streeter? We saw our Sister Dorothy Tillman, stand up boldly and strongly. We saw our brother Wallace Davis, stand up very strong. We saw a dilly-dallying Alderman Danny Davis, a little shaky Mr. Davis was. Consideration and eye on a congressional seat that the Jews seem to have some heat on the seat. If you're not willing to stand up, Alderman Davis, then you don't deserve, though it's no big thing, you don't deserve to even clean the latrine in Congress. If you can't stand up, all praise is due to Allah. If you can't stand up for the champion of black people's cause. We saw Alderwoman Anna Langford stand up and speak words of condemnation and repudiation right on the floor of City Council against Minister Farrakhan. We say we will remember you, Alderwoman Langford. We will remember you when election time rolls around. We will roll a machine on the streets to roll you out of that seat, because you don't deserve to be there if you won't stand up for the hurt of our people. But somehow, as we prepare to bring him on, as I sat there, I said, Minister Farrakhan is not on trial here today. I looked around, I looked for some of you, and I didn't see you. I looked for the masses, I didn't see the masses wrapped around City Hall, packed in the hallways, packed in the City Council chamber. I said, where are the masses? I said, their champion is on trial here today. It's a trumped up trial. The charges are trumped up. It's a kangaroo council. It doesn't mean a thing. But where are they to answer this? I remembered Bartimaeus when Jesus was on trial. I wondered as I sat there, I said, where are those of us who represent Bartimaeus today? Bartimaeus was blind from birth, but when Jesus went on trial, Bartimaeus, who had had his sight restored, was not there to testify in behalf of the righteous man. Bartimaeus did not show up in court that day. He could see. He didn't have to feel his way to the courtroom. Bartimaeus could now see his way clearly to the courtroom because Jesus, the divine instrument in the midst of the people, had cleared his vision that he would be able to see his path to the courtroom. Lazarus was not present that day, though he had gone to the grave of death and had been stinking in that grave for 4 days, as we have been in this condition for over 400 years. Lazarus was not present that day in the courtroom. I said, Minister Farrakhan is not on trial here today. We're on trial today. Those from the leprosy colony, the white disease that Jesus had cleaned and cleared from a white-minded disease called leprosy, they didn't walk in the courtroom when Pilate and Caiaphas and all of them were trying Jesus in this kangaroo court. They didn't bust in. Where were the multitudes that Jesus had fed? Where were all the people who he had touched? Where was the woman from the well? Where was the prostitute? Where were they when Jesus was on trial? They were not there. So I said, Minister Farrakhan is not on trial. I said, this is a lightweight scrimmage. I said, this is a prep situation that we might get our minds and hearts straight. This is just to prepare us for the big crucifixion. So I looked around to see who was there. I looked for some of your faces. I didn't see you. When it was all over and the news media was swarming all over the place, wanting to add the last nail, they hoped in what they considered his coffin. I looked for you to be there to snatch the lid off the coffin and say, no, he lives. He's not dead. But for some of you in our radio audience, you were not there. Minister Farrakhan, as I near my conclusion, has moved throughout America and throughout the world, standing up for the pain and the hurt of the downtrodden, the oppressed, for our people who Jesse Jackson calls the locked out. Minister Farrakhan is going to kick the door down for black people, for the hurt of the oppressed. They shouldn't have been able to get in on that day. So I say to you that we were tested, we were tried. Allah gave us just a peep into the future so that he too could have just a peep into our hearts so that we could look into each other's hearts. And so we stand today ready to receive him, anxiously awaiting him, and saying that we have to go beyond clapping and applauding. We have to go beyond packing 50,000 and 30,000 and 19,000 and 10,000 and 12,000 into halls and auditoriums and 75,000 at Randall Island in New York. We must begin to stand up so that the enemy will know that the people stand with Louis Farrakhan, and to attack Louis Farrakhan is to attack the people. We are to be the catalyst for that. We are to be those who set that in motion. And so I bring before you again the champion of the cause of the masses, that one who has become the preeminent and premier leader of a black mass movement that is sweeping America and indeed sweeping the world. And the same enemies that came against Jesus 2,000 years ago in the Roman Empire, the Jews, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Sanhedrin, have now come against the man of God in our midst today. Didn't stand up 2,000 years ago, so we must stand up today. We were not here 2,000 years ago, but we are here today. The man who is the charismatic catalyst for the classes as he is joining the classes and the masses together. We must stand boldly, forthrightly, and strongly with him as I present to you the spokesman for the pain and hurt of the oppressed masses of the world, that man who by God's permission and by God's grace has been shaped and molded and prepared and fashioned for this hour, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan Muhammad. Would you receive him?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Beloved brothers and sisters in our listening audience and here at the Final Call Administration Building, I greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
I thank you, Brother Khalid, for those words. And I thank all of those who had the courage to stand for truth. You're not standing for Louis Farrakhan as a person, but you're standing for the truth that you know that I represent. And if you do not stand up for the truth, then you will be punished by the God of truth as one who is worthy of chastisement. This is the first day of December. It is a day and a month that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad chose for his followers to take what is called the fast of Ramadan. To many Muslims and scholars of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to them was incorrect. As a student of his and one who passionately loves my teacher, I hope to say a few words that will encourage and at least get you to think about the Quran and what the Quran teaches about the fast that is called Ramadan. This is not my subject, but this is just an opening statement that I'm going to make. In chapter 2, verse 183 of the Quran, it reads, "O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may guard against evil." Whether we know it or not, we are at war. The black community is under siege. In fact, the total human family should be observing the general orders. We should be attempting to walk our post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert, observing everything within sight or hearing. We must be alert to the danger in this society against our spiritual life, our mental, economic, political, and social life. Fasting was prescribed for those who lived before us. It is a divine prescription for a people who are in the midst of evil, that you may gain the strength to guard against evil. Almighty God, Allah, has always ordained for the people that they fast, deny themselves what nature calls for in terms of food and drink and sex for His glory. Once we can stop eating when our stomach calls for food, and stop drinking when our thirst demands that it be quenched, and control the sexual appetite, though there is an urge to fulfill it, then we are capable to guard against evil. For the enemy of us only comes to us and gets to us through our appetites that we don't have under control. I'm sure this is easy for you to understand. So fasting during the month of Ramadan is prescribed for all Muslims. All during the daylight hours, a Muslim will neither eat nor drink and abstains from any sexual relationship with his wife or her husband during the daylight hours, and is mindful of the daily prayers that a Muslim is required to make, 5 of them in number. We are mindful that there is to be no quarreling, disputes, argument, cursing, and evil activity during this holy month of fasting. Now, many Muslims will say that this is the wrong month. For Ramadan, by the very nature of its meaning, means a month of excessive heat. It is in the month of Ramadan that the Quran commenced, the revelation of the Quran commenced to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. However, in the Quran, it reads, the month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance to men and clear proofs of the guidance and the criterion. So whoever of you is present in the month, he shall fast therein. And whoever is sick or on a journey shall fast a like number of other days. Allah desires ease for you, and He desires not hardship for you, and He desires that you should complete the number, and that you should exalt the greatness of Allah for having guided you, and that you may give thanks. It's a very powerful, which this is not my subject today, but I want to touch it very quickly. Notice the Quran says, whoever of you is present in the month of Ramadan, he shall fast during that month. And whoever is sick or on a journey should fast a like number of other days. For Allah desires ease for you and not hardship for you. Now, since Ramadan is a requirement for every Muslim, and we who are black people in America, who are Muslims or righteous people by nature, and who were brought into America against our will over 400 years ago and made other than ourselves, so that our practice and way today is totally alien from Allah and totally alien from the way of our fathers and the prophets. We are a long way off from ourselves. So whenever one of us in America says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, you have started a journey, a long pilgrimage in the night back to the light of God. So the black people in America can qualify saying that we can fast a like number of days because we are on a journey. Not just a journey traveling through air or traveling on the train or traveling by bus or traveling by camel. We are traveling through very difficult regions, going back to God in a hostile, alien, wicked environment. We can classify to fast a like number of days because after living among the enemies of God and the enemies of ourselves and our fathers for over 400 years, we have been made enemies of ourselves and one another, which is a manifestation of mental, spiritual, moral, political, and social sickness. We are sick, mentally in that we don't know ourselves and we live other than ourselves. A person that has that kind of sickness is called one who is suffering from amnesia. And it is clear that 30 million black people in America who don't know their own names, their own language, their own culture, their own religion, their own God, their own origin in the world are suffering from a lack of mental correctness in that we don't know where we are. And if we don't know where we are, we don't know where we've been. Consequently, we're not sure of where we're going. Therefore, this is a mentally sick patient here. We can tell that we are spiritually sick because if we are disconnected from the Lord of creation, we do not manifest in our activity that we know Him. For if, my dear Christian brothers and sisters, you say that God is love, and you hate yourself because you are black in an alien world, then you, by the act of self-hatred, are disconnected from your Creator who loves you and created you to love yourself. The very fact that you are not only steeped with self-hatred, but a self-defeating, debilitating inferiority feeling that makes you not want to even connect with one another, nor your kith and kin in Africa, the Caribbean, and other parts of the world. This is a sickness where you will go all over the world to fight for America and will not go next door to fight for yourself or for your neighbor. This shows a social sickness. We are socially diseased. We are immoral, drunkards, thieves, dope users, fornicators, adulterers, liars, violent men and women. This is a moral sickness. So when we attempt to go back to Almighty God and attempt to be cured of our sickness, we are on a journey and we need a doctor and we need some kind of ease because we're doing this in the midst of our enemies. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in direct obedience to the Quran, chose for us a like number of days. Now, why did He choose December? Because Allah desires ease for these baby Muslims. What is ease? If we're going to stop eating and drinking during the daylight hours, the shortest days of the year occur in the month of December. So if Allah desires ease for us, then let us, as babies in Islam, then practice fasting during this month. But there's another reason for it. We have all partaken of the false worship of Jesus. Listen now. Jesus is to be followed, not worshiped. Only God is to be worshiped. Jesus was our example. Do you understand? He didn't ever tell you, come worship me. He said, come follow me. He said, you must worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such. He didn't say He was seeking worshipers. He was seeking you to follow Him in His pure worship of the one God. Now that we have worshiped Him instead of the Father, and a pagan kind of worship has been set up during the month of December, where Santa Claus, a big fat Caucasian looking gentleman from the North Pole, gets more credit on Jesus' so-called birthday than Jesus himself. People today are looking at the television, being titillated by advertising genius to go downtown and spend money that you really don't have to fatten the coffers of the already too fat and make your own pockets leaner than they already are in the name of Jesus Christ. A tree is cut down out of the forest that has nothing to do with Jesus. It is part of the old pagan worship of the pagan disbelievers of ancient Rome and the ancient Babylon period. But you don't know these things, so you follow this crazy worship, getting drunk, buying more liquor on Christmas than any other day of the year, eating more hog, doing more partying, more dancing, kissing under the mistletoe, and all kind of activities in Jesus' name. Lying to your children that this big fat Caucasian looking fella from the North Pole with Dunder and Blitzen and whatnot are bringing all of these fantastic toys and putting them under the Christmas tree, and your poor little child wakes up on Christmas Day looking to Santa Claus, wishing he could see Santa Claus, to give the credit to the big fat Caucasian sitting in the department store downtown, rather than honoring the mother and the father who scuffled and saved and scrimped to get a little toy to give their children. Beloved, you lie on the birthday of the so-called birthday of Jesus. The reason they call it Xmas is because you don't really know who you are worshiping on that day. X stands for the unknown. And there's a mass of people worshiping the unknown. You understand? It's not Jesus' birthday. It's the birthday of the most wicked opponent of God written in the book. His name is Nimrod. But I'm not going into that today. This will be a subject for later on in the month. But for all of you, that have not blown your money yet, may I humbly advise you, keep your money in your pocket. And if you still believe that Jesus was born on the 25th, you go to your friends and give them your own goodness. A pleasant smile and a warm embrace and good words of cheer, but to spend money that you don't have, to put yourself in debt that you won't get out of till next year, is foolishness. Jesus would not want you to do that. God would not want you to do that. But the profit merchants would love that you foolishly spend your money like that. So in order to keep his followers from partaking in this mockery of Jesus, he asked his followers to fast the month of December as the fast of Ramadan. So to our Islamic brothers and sisters who look upon us as being strange, yes, we've been lost from the right path for 400 years. And we, like you, have prayed to be guided to the right path. And by the grace of Almighty God, Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us what the month of Ramadan was, but he chose this month because Allah desires ease for us and not hardship. But for those of us who have been practicing this discipline for many, many years, and we know better about Christmas, which we will explain to you later on in the month, then we are expected to show our maturity. So we will fast during the month of Ramadan, or rather during this December, take it as Ramadan, in following the teaching and guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But during the actual month of Ramadan, which will come up in May, I believe, of this year, we will fast again in accordance with the directions of the Quran, so that we will be in harmony with the total Islamic world, but at the same time we understand the reasons why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us this month of December to fast. And so all of us are fasting today, and we won't drink anything, we won't eat anything until after the sun is set. And we shall do this for the next 30 days, and I would encourage all of you, if you really want to get some discipline about your life, fast this month with us. If you want to get control of terrible eating habits, fast with us. If you feel that you have problems with your sexuality, and who doesn't in a crazy world like this? This is a world that is so crazy with sex madness, which is not my subject today, and I'm not going to get off into that. But I do want to talk about it. One of these broadcasts, I want to really devote that broadcast to sex. What? Yes. And to that nature that God gives us that must be controlled by us, or it can destroy us. So fasting helps you to get a grip on all of our appetites. And no man is free, truly free. No woman is truly free until your appetites and your desires are under the control of a disciplined pattern of thought. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now I can jump right off into my subject. Last week we were talking about the making of devil. And this week we wanted to get off into the making of God. You say, God made? Well, yes. How do we make God? Is Allah made? No. Allah is self-created. Well, how do you make God? By following Allah. If a teacher, listen, teaches you, and you submit to your teacher, what can the teacher make you? Make you a teacher. If brother is a journalist, and I want to learn journalism and I don't have the money to go to college, if I study under brother, submit to his instructions, at a certain point in time, I can become a journalist by obeying a journalist. I can become a doctor by obeying a doctor. I can become a nurse by obeying a nurse. The problem with the American educational system, I'm going to touch this very briefly, is that they try to make it appear that the acquisition of knowledge is a very hard thing, while in truth we are born into this world with a head that is able to perceive all kinds of knowledge. And we are born with an innate ability to master any discipline that we choose. You are not born to be mediocre. You are actually born to be a master. In this society, they make it some sort of elitist kind of thing, that you must be tested. Then if you fail the test, you can't go on to become a doctor or a lawyer. Any of you that has a will to be a doctor can become a doctor. Any of you that has the will to become a lawyer, a teacher, a chemist, a physicist, a botanist, a mathematician, you can become whatever you will. That is the nature in which God created every last one of us. Now, the reason you don't become what you will is because of a set of impediments that are placed in the pathway of your progress. Now, I say that to say this: if you study under a devil, you become a devil. Because a devil is not going to make you a God of righteousness. He's going to make you a master of evil. If you study under the God of righteousness, you become godly, godlike. Is that clear? Yes. So now, if I asked you, who would you like to be under? Would you like to be in the classroom of Satan or in the classroom of the Creator? You would all say, I would like to be in the classroom of the Creator. Then how are we so evil? If we are evil, then it means we may like to be in the classroom of the Creator, but we are right now in the classroom of Satan, and we have studied well. For we have become little devils. Oh, now, don't get excited. This is not what you were made for. But this is what you are being made into because you got the wrong teacher. And you are listening to the wrong influences. And the wrong influences are shaping us in sin and after iniquity. We cannot deny that America, as the Bible teaches, has become a habitation of devils. Now, Allah says that the jinn were made before in the Quran. The jinn were made before. The jinn is a name for fiery spirit. fiery spirit. I want you to listen to me very carefully. So many of us think that the jinn is an entity that is made before the man, and that is true. But the jinn stage is a stage on the way to the evolutionary development of a real man. But if at any time you stop in the process of your development, you could stop at the stage where you are considered jinn. Now listen to what I'm saying. Jinn represents fiery temperament, fiery nature, where you give rise to emotionalism. You're controlled and governed by your emotions rather than by a developed intelligence. Do you understand? Yes, sir. When you look at a newborn baby, have you checked this out? When you don't give the baby what the baby wants, when the baby wants it, the baby cries. And if you listen to the baby, sometimes you can hear that that cry will evolve into a fierce anger, where the baby is crying and you can feel that that baby is actually angry. And it gets so angry till sometimes it cries until it turns different colors and even can become blue and knock itself out by its own anger. But how did it get angry like that? Why did it show this fire? Because fire is a part of the human nature. Listen, there is fire in everything that is in creation. There's fire in you, there's fire in me, there's fire in grass, there's fire in everything, because all life is touched and energized by the fire of the sun. So the fire of the sun is in all things. This is how and why we can get angry and show fire. Literally, when you get angry, you can get so angry till it looks as though fire is coming right from your eyes. Your whole countenance will change under the thought and the spirit of anger. Fiery jinn. Fire, the jinn was made before. Before what? Before you get to the stage of completed man, you get to the stage of jinn. And whenever you have a person that is considered jinn, this means that they have knowledge, they may have wisdom, they may have some understanding, but they are not yet developed enough to control the fire of their own nature and temperament. Do you follow what I am saying? All praise is due to Allah. Now, if you cannot control the fire of your temperament, you are an underdeveloped human being. Underdeveloped. And under that fiery temperament, you can wreak havoc on the earth, in your home, wherever you are, because you're not guided by reason, you're guided by passion. Are you listening? All right. You may not like this statement that I'm about to make, but I make it fully knowing what emotionally you may say. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad refers to Caucasian people as devils, and he's speaking generally now, he is saying something about the fiery nature and temperament of an underdeveloped species of the human family that has rejected the teachings of the prophets. And by rejecting the teachings of the prophets and the law of God, they have rejected the very thing that would control that fiery temperament and allow them to grow into a spiritual being which would make them more harmonious with God, with the nature of creation, and with the natural men and women of creation. But if you notice the Caucasian, he's very hasty and fiery. You can't upset him too long before he reacts violently. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us on the nature of alcohol and the nature of water, and how the boiling point of alcohol, I believe, is 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Fahrenheit. But the boiling point of water is 212 degrees. Now, when you partake of the spirits, alcohol, you watch that people who drink alcohol, people who use drugs, they have a tendency to be very impatient and they anger quickly. But those who are balanced, whose systems are balanced, they take a longer time to get angry. Anger is something that must be controlled. If anger is not controlled, it destroys the person who is angry. You've heard the saying, he whom God will destroy, they first make angry. All right. Now, here we have a volcano that erupted down in South America, Colombia. That volcano was dead for 400 years. Out of the center of the earth, what came up? Fire. Showing you that even though the earth is cool on the surface, there is fire beneath the surface if you bring it out. Are you listening? Follow what I'm saying now. Molten lava was at the core of the earth under that volcano. As the volcano became alive and the fire came from beneath, came up. Now think about that, coming up a mountain and then spewed out of the mountain. The natural snow caps that hold water at cold temperatures, where the peaks of mountains are snow capped. But when the gentle summer comes, it causes the water to melt, and the water runs down from the mountains, forming what is called rivers. And the rivers, of course, give fertilization to the valleys, etc., from the snow that is built up on the mountains. This is a very natural process. But when nature is disturbed and a volcano erupts, spewing out molten lava over the top, and that lava hits the peaks, the waters melt in an unnaturally quick fashion, causing flooding and mudslides. What about the fire in the nature of human beings? Are you listening? Every one of us is calm, apparently, I hope, right now. But there is no human being who cannot be made angry to the point where you violate all that you think you know. The knowledge in your head is like the water that is frozen at the peak of the mountain. You hold your knowledge here in your head and you use it as it becomes necessary, right? But when anger comes up, you act as though you knew nothing. You become violent, you become berserk, you become a maniac. Sometimes you can't see anything. You act as though you're a person that had no knowledge at all, for you do things, and when you do it, after it's done, you say, oh my God, did I do that? How many black young men and women are in prisons, or white young men and women, or older men and women are in prison today because of anger
that got them so totally out of control. Passion that was so great that they couldn't control it, that it defied all of their knowledge, and they killed their loved ones, killed their children, killed their mates. You understand? Most of the people that are in prison today are not in prison because they are cold, premeditated murderers, but their crimes are crimes of passion, because we live in a society that does not teach men and women sufficiently that we may gain control of the fire of our own being. So when you see a bunch of angry people that you will see just for parking, for instance, you're going for a parking lot, you and the other person see the parking lot about the same time. They're backing up, you trying to get in. So an argument ensues. A man reaches in, picks up his gun, shoots you over a parking space. What happened to that man? What made him lose his ability to think? Is it worth it over a parking space? Sometimes you're all messed up, you go to the pool room for evening of relaxation. You're playing pool and somebody said, well, hey, let's put a dollar on the 9 ball or whatever you want to gamble for. And then the person beats you and then said, oh man, I knew you was a chump. I knew you didn't know what you were doing, just laughing at you, mocking you, but in your nature, you can't stand to lose. You want to be a winner, and you've been a loser all your life. Here's one more little loss, and it's over $1, so anger comes up in you. And all of a sudden, you lose your mind. And you kill the man with the pool stick. And you're doing time now for a passionate murder. But you are not a murderer. Every human being has the potential for murder, and you see it in the baby who exhibits this kind of anger that will almost stifle oxygen from coming to the baby. Well, so it is when we get angry to the point where it blinds us. We are stifling and choking off inspiration and wisdom from giving us balance with our anger. This shows a mentality in the society that is a jinn mentality. People are hasty, people are of fiery temperament, people are quick to do harm to each other. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, if we're going to make a devil, when you add to a fiery potential false pride, when you add to that a lack of submission to the will of God, then you've got all the ingredients to make a real enemy for self and others. Now, in our lessons from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he raises the question that has been so misunderstood: why does Muhammad and any Muslim murder the devil? Murder is a premeditated thing. It is planned and carried out according to a plan. Why does Muhammad and any Muslim murder the devil? And what will be your regards, your reward rather, in regards to taking 4 devils' heads? So many of us in the days of our ignorance, and many white people who got those lessons, and the FBI certainly has them, they're looking and say, oh my God, these Muslims are being trained to be murderers of the devil. We really are. We really are. But not in the way you think, wicked one. We are not out here planning to murder human beings, taking their physical life. That's not what it's about. 4 heads. Does that mean that every Muslim must go out and actually take the head off of 4 devils? No. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't want these lessons in the prisons. Because in the prison, a man don't have anything to do but look at things like this and think of his condition and who put him in such condition. He might get angry and start getting a few heads in the jail, and this is not proper.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not want such lessons in the prison. But as we mature in the teaching, we began to understand that you've got 4 beasts that the Bible talks about. 4 great beasts, and it's not talking about physical animals, but it's talking about human beings who have not matured spiritually, who are of that beast-like temperament and nature. They are underdeveloped human beings, so they're on the level of the lower forms of life. America is like that. She's one of the great beasts that the Bible talks about. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters, but that's the truth. England is like that. She's one of the great beasts that the Bible is talking about. Germany is like that. Italy was like that. Russia is like that. These are beasts. When you have a beast, the beast doesn't think about what's right or wrong. The beast says, I'm hungry. Here's a little lamb, I'll pounce on it. America doesn't think of right and wrong when she thinks about the raw materials that are in some Latin American country, some Central American country, some Asian country, some African country. If it's there and we need it and there's an opportunity, we take it. That's the nature of a beast. That's the nature of the foreign policy of the government of the United States. It is the foreign policy of a beast. Do you hear what I'm saying? Now, are you anti-American, Farrakhan? Not at all. I am anti a beast being in governance over human beings. Because if a beast governs human beings, and that same beast manipulates and formulates that institutional life, then what can you come out of these institutions being? These institutions don't make you human. These institutions absolutely foster in you the elitist mentality that makes you think you're better than your brother and sister if you happen to have a degree, and then you try to use your less fortunate brother and sister, manipulate them with the same mentality of the beast who governs you. It is a beast that governs not only the political arena, but the religious arena is also governed by human beings who are underdeveloped, fiery temperament. They give the appearance of holiness, but they are absolutely beasts in human form. And what I'm suggesting is that the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, the hierarchy of the Christian church, the hierarchy of the Jewish synagogues, the hierarchy of the government of America have no right reason to govern the people. What are you making of the people? Look at the people who are coming out of these institutions and tell me if the fruit bears witness to the nature of the tree. Then the people of America bear witness that the institutions of America are unfit to have our babies in their hands, black or white. Okay, now this is simple truth. You and I have been made other than what God intends for us, and we lack control of the fire of our own being. What is it in a human being that will cause a human being to lynch another one? Lynch him because he didn't do anything wrong, I just hate this black person. Well, if your color means so much to you that you hate something that is other than your color, then how do you think about the God who is the creator of color? If God is the author of color and gave us our color that you hate, then you want to kill us because God made us black. Then what does that tell you of your thinking toward God? See, you are a beast in your mentality. And when you are knowledgeable and not yet human, then you absolutely use deceit and trickery to deceive the people and carry them into a veritable hell. And this is why Elijah Muhammad referred to this as a devil society. And we cannot deny that. Well, the broadcast is just about over, but those of you who would like to get the tape, you may call 994-5775. I'm sorry, Louis Farrakhan is just getting started on this subject. I will not be very long, but I will be at least 45 minutes more, so you have time. If you'd like to, come on out now. It's raining. Spend your afternoon with me. The Bears play tomorrow night. Hope to see you soon. May Allah bless you. That number again is 994-5775. What's that number? 994-5775. And now we go on with the truth. Now, beloved brothers and sisters, listen. If the devil has 4 heads, what is the head that produces fornication, adultery, incest, sodomy, homosexuality, perversion, and acts of freakishness? It is an appetite that God gives to each of us, which is the appetite of sex, which is a fire. And when somebody wants to get you stirred up in that direction, they attempt to make you what? Hot. Excuse me. Pardon me, but that's the language. In the heat of the night. The dog is in heat. I need to go get a cold shower. To do what? Cool down this heat. Where'd the fire come from? Fire came from within. Who stoked the fire? Who stimulated the fire? Who put fuel on the fire? Somebody who knew how to touch the right button where you were concerned at the right time could, come on baby, light my fire. Oh, excuse me, I just get carried away sometimes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, when you're singing a song, come on, baby, light my fire, what are you saying? You got the match. I sure got the fire. Now, if there's a fire burning in each of us, then anybody that got the match, that strikes it at the right time, under the right circumstances, you start firing up. Well, okay, then sex, the appetite of sex is a fire. Right?
Yes, sir.
Is it right?
Yes, sir.
Does it need to be controlled?
Yes, sir.
Agreed?
Yes, sir.
We all right? Is anger a fire?
Yes, sir.
It's a fire, it's a passion, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Does it need to be controlled?
Yes, sir.
These are lusts. Is the desire for material things, the acquisition of things, is it also a fire? Yes. See, I'm on fire. I got to have that car. I like that car. I want that car. You see the person get lit. Their eyes begin to sparkle because a fire is raging in them. See, but having a desire for a thing is not wrong, but having control of the desire is proper. Otherwise, people can take advantage of you by starting a fire and then manipulating you by the fire. Okay, so we've got a lust for sex, appetite for sex, an appetite for anger, an appetite for material things, Then we have another terrible fire that burns, and sometimes it can go unnoticed. It's the fire of envy. When you think someone has something that you yourself want, you think it belongs to you. So you sit there and hate the person that has it, and this fire is raging in the furnace of your own soul, burning to ashes your spiritual form. These are four heads of the devil that is within the nature of the human being that have to be taken off. These heads have to be taken off, and there must be a murder to do it, and the murder must be according to a plan, and it must be premeditated. Y'all all right? Yes, now, I know some of you just want to kill white people. I think that shows a sickness. Because wanting to kill a fiery natured person who is killing himself and not wanting to kill that in you that makes you a victim of his fire is actually putting the attention where the attention doesn't belong. The attention does not belong on the white man. The attention belongs right on self, because if we master self, he can't master us. That's why we used to call him the slave master, because he can only master one who is willing to bow down to him, but he cannot master a free thinker. He cannot master a free person. He cannot master one who is under control. Are you listening? Yes, now give me a few more minutes, all right? You know, this morning I began to think about my conflict with the Jewish community. And it took me back in time to when I first became a Muslim. And I want to share this with you for whatever it is worth. I used to be in show business, and I loved it with a deep, deep passion. Music is like a god. It demands obedience of you. It demands that you bow in service to it if you want to become great. In any field of endeavor, it demands sacrifice. Okay? When Malcolm X told me that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad desired that all musicians either leave music or leave the mosque, it took me less than 5 minutes to make up my mind that I could live without music, but I couldn't live without truth. So I gave up my music. I had never worked a day job but once in my life. And they worked me so hard in that factory that day for the very little pay that I got. I decided that I was so grateful that my mother gave me music. Not that and I want to say this, I learned respect for the labor of a laborer. Because brothers and sisters, those of you who work jobs on a daily basis and work in factories, you work very, very hard for very little pay for what you get. And it must be disheartening to you to work 8 hours and only make maybe $25 a day, when they put on television all these fine things that you really want, and when you look at your paycheck, particularly after they take out Social Security, which you probably will never live to get, or they won't have it by the time you're old enough, at the rate it's going, and
your little monies that you have to learn to live with, and you party so hard. And you're just so crazy with what little money you do get, till before you get on speaking terms with your pay, it is gone. So Monday, you're right back at it again with no pay, hardly enough money to get back and forth to work. Now, brothers and sisters, this is a shame. This is a form of economic slavery. You agree? Well, when I gave up show business, this is the truth. My first job, I had to work 6 days a week for $35 a week. I was a salesperson for storm screens and windows and doors. I made $35 raw money. If I sold anything, I'd get a little commission. I mostly made $35 every week. I'm only telling you the truth. My next job, I worked in a restaurant. And I had a West Indian mother, bless her heart. When I wanted to do things in the way of, we had oil trucks in those days and used to carry ice and coal because they didn't have refrigerators. We had ice boxes in those days. And I wanted to work the oil truck, and my mother didn't want me to work the oil truck. She wanted me to play my violin and practice, and she would do the hard labor, but it kind of spoiled you in a sense. So I went to work, man, in a restaurant, and they had me washing dishes. And I washed them well, but I washed them slow. I mean, certain things you just not cut out for, you know what I mean? But I worked hard at it. I really worked hard. After I finished the dishes, the lunch dishes, I just got them finished around dinner time. And when the dinner was over, I was working, you know, into the night. Then the man asked me to cut some potatoes. And I had never peeled potatoes before. So I peeled off half the potato in the skin. I'm just telling you the truth. Then he asked me to mop the floor at night. You know, I was sincere, dedicated, committed. But the mop was one of them heavy commercial mops. And I just wasn't used to handling it, so when I threw the mop one way, I'd go with it. So the next day, they worked me so hard that day, this is the truth, I overslept. So I called down and said, look, I'm on my way. He said, don't bother. When you can come down, you can pick up your pay. I made $12 that whole day. But I was willing to do this for Elijah Muhammad's sake and give up my music. Finally, brothers and sisters, I went to Boston, where I grew up, and got a job in the garment section. Now, this is way off my subject, but it's really on my subject. I went in the garment section, and they said, well, you got too much education for this job. I said, but I got 2 children and one on the way. That's enough education for the job. I got to have this job. And that's one thing my wife will tell you about me. I'm committed to feeding my family. And no work was too bad for me to do to earn an honest living to take care of my wife and my growing family. And I say this to all of you brothers. If you really want the love of a woman, fight hard to get what it takes honestly to take care of her and the children that you produce from her, and you produce a woman that loves you, honors you, and she puts it in the children to love you. She can tear up your future by putting seeds in them children's head, brother, against you. And most of our women talk against their
the fathers of their children. And you're not even around, brother. Sometimes you really don't care. So you make a baby and run off, but that woman is there with that baby every day. And she gets hot because you don't work, you don't send no money, and she takes it out on the children. You look just like you're no good father. And that poor boy or girl begins to hate the father because of the way the mother is training it. And it's really our fault. But I want to get away from that. I got a call from a Jewish nightclub that I used to work at in Long Island called the Golden Slipper. I used to work there with some of the fine Jewish comedians, Mort Saul and some of the big names that you know today that are Jewish comedians. I used to work with them. They would have starved the show, but the people came to see me. Because I was one heck of a performer in the line of the calypso, the dancing, the singing, etc. The violin I had put aside by then because I couldn't play classics in nightclubs. At least they weren't ready for that. But they paid me, these Jewish persons, paid me $150 a week. They wouldn't raise me. When I quit, now I'm up in Boston in the garment section carrying bolts of cloth on my shoulder, racking it. I get a telegram from my former boss, his name is Schneider and Goldman. They're now offering me $350 a week. Mind you, I'm making $45. And when they take out Social Security and the tax, I get $44.10. Now I'm offered $350 to come back to New York and work for them. I quit working for in show business. The Jews had mastered that one. I'm now working for another Jewish company in Boston for $44.10. So this Jew in Long Island calls me to come back to work for $350. I called him on the phone. I said, thank you for the offer, but I'm doing fine, and no thank you. I'm doing fine, making $44.10. Turned down $350. This is in 1956. When you make $350 in 1956, that's like $1,250 today, brother. I want you to hear this. I gave up that kind of money. My friends thought I was crazy. And in truth, there's no logic that will make you understand a man giving up his career and big money for God. I mean, God give you the talent, you should use it, you know, make some money. Now here's the point I'm getting to. There was a black brother working with me. His nickname was Snow. There was another Jewish fellow that worked along with me as a cutter. Snow was a cutter, and the other Jewish fellow was a cutter. I was just like a stock boy, grabbing these big heavy bolts of cloth and piling them in racks. But I was young and strong. But they noticed that I didn't eat. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to eat one meal a day, and that's what I would do. So the Jewish lady, who was the wife of the owner, called me in the office and said, why don't you eat? What's the matter? You don't want to eat? Something wrong? I said, no, I only eat once a day, and that's in the evening. What? I've been watching you, and it seems to me that you're trying to get a hernia so you could sue us or something. This is the truth. I said, no, ma'am. I said, it's my religion, you know, and I only eat once. What is your religion? I said, my religion is Islam. I'm a Muslim. Well, that spread all through then, you know. All right, now I come to work on time. I work hard. I don't bother anybody. But now look. This Jewish fella came to me one day
We used to talk. He said, you know, you're very smart. He said, I believe you're really smarter than Elijah Muhammad, and you should be the leader. Now look at this. Here's a man, and see, this is why we call them devils. See, when you don't know them, how they operate, see, that's a subtle seed in the heart of someone who's vain or egotistical to make you rise up against your teacher. So I said to him, I said, Frank, I said, you remind me, your statement is ignorant, and it reminds me of when you were in the hills and cave sides of Europe. No, listen. I said, can you imagine one of the cavies telling another that you are smarter than Moses who came to deliver you from the cave? When I dropped that on him, he knew that I knew, and I knew that he knew, and we were locked in a battle. Now I'm trying to get snow to the temple. So it's like the scripture says, Moses and, Satan and Michael contending with each other over the body of Moses. Here's this Jew and myself. We are fighting each other over snow. I'm trying to get snow to visit the mosque so I can teach him some sense. So he wouldn't be calling himself Snow and allowing them white folks to call him Snow. And the white boy is saying, Snow, I'm going to lunch. I'll buy you lunch today, Snow. And Snow looks at, oh, hey. The white boy comes back, opens up the bag, it's a fat ham sandwich. Now he's a Jew, he don't eat it. But he gives it to Snow in my face, then he looks at me as if to say, I got this nigga. You understand? So all the way back in 1956, it was me contending with a Jew for my brother in a little place. Now I'm contending with the Jew on a national and international scale for the total liberation of black people. I'm on my job. I'm on my job. Now, I say that I did not know that that would be my job. But God gently guided me into a mission and then locked the door where I can't get out of it. So I'm locked now into a struggle that appears to be an anti-Semitic man, when in reality, I don't hate Jews at all. In fact, they are worthy of admiration for their mastery of the fields that they master, but they are worthy of condemnation, some of them, for the evil that they have done in such a subtle and secret way that you think that they are something that they are not. As a result, the scripture says, that day shall not come except there be a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed. Not a spirit of sin, but a man of sin be revealed. Reveal means uncovered. If he's revealed, is to be revealed, he's hidden. And the Jewish wickedness has always been hidden because they manipulate their less fortunate Gentile brethren to do their bidding. They have manipulated the Gentiles. In every nation in Europe, they rose to prominence and power. and they have no allegiance to no nation. They only have allegiance to themselves and world Jewry and the conquest of the Jews and mastery of the Jews over the world. Now others know this, but they don't have the courage to say it. I know it and am born to go to the mountaintop and tell it, whether it means my life, but it means your freedom. The man of sin must be revealed, uncovered, so that we can fall away from him and see him for what he is, and then take the appropriate step. Now, Farrakhan's challenge of their evil has caused them to outright lie on me. I mean, it's an outright lie. And I watch every time they condemn me, they walk in behind a lie. He called Judaism a gutter religion. Lie. He praised Hitler. Lie. Then they come in behind that with, yes, he's an anti-Semite. And we're condemning him for the evil things he has said about Judaism. But if you took the time as writers and went back and listened to my tape, you never hear any reference to Judaism. Not one. I refer to a dirty religion. Not what Moses revealed, but the practice. Notice how I said it. I said Israel has not had any peace in 40 years. Did I lie? I said, and Israel shall not have any peace, because there can be no peace structured on injustice, thievery, lying, deceit, and using God's name to shield your dirty religion under his holy and righteous name. That is what I said. Now, you can infer when I said dirty religion that I was referring to Judaism, because Judaism is the religion of the people of Israel. You can infer that, but I did not say that. And no matter how much I say that what God revealed to Moses, that is chronicled in the Quran, in the Torah, I as a Muslim am bound to obey it, respect it, and honor it. So I could never have been talking about the religion of Moses. I was talking about dirty practice that religious people use to dirty the face of their religion. And Christians have dirtied Christianity. Don't tell me, brother. Jesus didn't preach no dirt. But what is this you practicing in his name? Talk back to me. It ain't nothing but pure, unadulterated filth. When you can use religion for imperialistic designs, going into Africa and ripping up Africa in the name of Jesus Christ, and some Arabs going behind ripping up Africa again in the name of Allah and Muhammad, that's practicing dirty religion. And I don't give a damn who practices it, a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. If your actions are unclean, leave the prophets out of your mouth, because no prophet preached dirtiness or imperialism under the name of religion. Muhammad did not preach imperialism. Moses didn't preach imperialism. Jesus didn't preach imperialism. He said take the doctrine, the gospel, to the ends of the earth. He didn't say use it as a tool to rob the people of their dignity or to make them you. He didn't want Muslims to go in Africa and make those people Arabs. If you preach the religion properly, it never would make a black man an Arab.
It would make him himself, because the nature of him is righteousness. That's all I'm saying. Now that is not anti-Semitic. But the Jews know that they are guilty. So in order to stifle any criticism against themselves, anybody that would criticize them, they paint them with the broad stroke. He's anti-Semitic. Then they push it through. You know the kind of control they got when the president would rebuke me. Well, who is Reagan? He's not your friend, is he? Oh. The Senate censured me 95 to nothing, saying I'm a racist. But that's an all-white body. With over 30 million of us, we ain't got one black senator. But they can condemn me, and you talk about I'm a racist. These bastards condemning me on racism. You say, Farrakhan, don't let your passion melt down your knowledge. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's hypocrisy, to condemn me, the victim of racism, as being a racist because I call the shots like I see them. I said that the setting up of the state of Israel is a criminal conspiracy. I did say that. But then don't call me anti-Semitic because I said that. Because your Bible teaches you that the Jews were to wait for the Messiah. You got nearly 1 million Hasidic Jews that do not believe that Israel is legitimate because it didn't come from the Messiah. Nearly 1 million Jews. Are they anti-Semitic? They marched on the UN when Shimon Peres spoke there. And you didn't see that in the newspapers. But they had big picket signs saying, you should have waited for the Messiah. I didn't go and tell those Jews what to put on the placard. But they put it on the placard bearing witness to what I'm teaching. But they're not anti-Semitic. They are passionate Jews. But I'm anti-Semitic because I'm black and I dare to tell the truth. Now, beloved, I say that to say this, to come to the making of a man of God. And I shall not complete this subject today. I shall only start it, because it's too heavy to complete. Making a man of God, or making a God, is something that God does. And the way he forms his creature, his servants, is something to behold. The scripture says God formed Adam from the dust of the ground. That's very heavy. Because when God wants to make a man, he doesn't start with a man that has already been made. He starts with something that is considered nothing. Dust. And the scriptures of both the Bible and Quran symbolically say he fashioned him really from nothing. And if you look at what you come from, what we come from, it is sperm mixed with ovum. And in that first state of our existence, we are considered nothing. If you, and I'm not being vulgar, but if you came to sit down and you saw some sperm on the seat, you would not sit on it. In fact, you would get away from it and say, what nasty person has been here. But that's your beginning. And your beginning, if it is not done in the manner prescribed by Almighty God, if it is not placed in the proper environment at the proper time, sperm anywhere other than where it belongs is considered disgusting.
Am I lying? That's your first state. It is a disgusting state. But that sperm, so small that you could put it on the head of a common pin, is the basis of your life. It is considered nothing, and it is cast into darkness. And when it contacts the egg, it forms a tiny drop of blood, and that blood begins to rotate in the darkness of the womb, even as the planets rotate. And it is this movement of that tiny drop of blood in the darkness of the womb that begins the process of breaking down and building up, that forms this matter called congealed blood, which is the clot. Now that's you, that's me, forming from something that is infinitesimally small and disgusting out of its proper environment. Here you are now, a lump of congealed blood. Then you form into a lump of flesh called the embryo. Then you evolve to a fetus. Then you evolve in that fetus-like state until you are prepared to come forth out of that tiny house. And when you come forth out of that house, you are formed complete yet incomplete. You are complete in your make, but you know nothing. The Quran says every child is born into the world knowing nothing. So the child that comes into the world from the formation in the darkness of the womb must now become a creature that is apart from the beasts of the field. And the only thing that separates the human family from the beasts of the field is that we have the ability to learn, to grow in knowledge, and to master the things of creation around us. Do you hear what I'm saying, beloved? So if you do not set your heart for knowledge, if your mother does not place you in an environment to learn, then your growth becomes stagnated. Look at what a baby learns in the first year of its development without a teacher. In the first year, it learns to crawl and walk and pull up and begin to recognize objects and try to get to move its hands to get control of that object. In the first year, without a teacher, that baby is learning. It is growing. We have an obligation, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to put that new life in an environment that will keep feeding the mind. You see, so that the child grows and gains control of the fire of its own being. Some of you now have noticed your daughters at 8 and 9 developing breasts. Some little girls are having their menses at 9 years old. Some little boys at 9 and 10 are developing the sperm, so that these two, under any circumstance that is not guarded, can come together, and that 9-year-old girl can be made pregnant because she doesn't understand what she's come into. The feeding of hormones into the foods, into the meats that the children are eating, is causing them to grow like the cattle grow, like the pigs grow, like the chicken grow. They're fattening them to get to market quick to make a profit. Your children are getting fatter to go to life quicker than their minds are able to perceive what the body is doing, man. Can't you see what the hell is going on? Don't you realize you're being destroyed on a daily basis because you have no control? Control is being taken from you by the masterminds. And because I dare to speak what I see and what I know is a fact, no one can take this from me. You want to call me everything but what I am? Here's a 9-year-old with menses and breasts forming up. Here's a man, a grown man, maybe the father
He's being bombarded every day with sex. Baby, let's get into it. Baby, let's do it. Baby, you feel so good to me. Baby, let's work it out all night long. In the heat of the night and back into the heat of the day. Come on, baby, let's do it. This is the crap that you're being fed on a daily basis and you can't handle it. You ain't got enough up top to handle what's going on, brother. They making a damn freak out of you and you don't even see what's going on. They're feeding you food. Listen to me. They're feeding you food that make you susceptible to suggestion. Drugs in the food, drugs in the water, making you susceptible to wicked suggestion. So they put on the tapes and on the records. If you play them backward, you'll hear little subtle messages coming out. I love Satan. Coke is good. They ain't talking about that Coke that is Coca-Cola. But when they say Coke is it, Coke is it, Coke is it. I mean, and they lay it on you with a rhythm. Coke is it, and you patting your foot. Coke is it, Coke is it, and that's a suggestion. Coke is it, Coke is it. Just nice rhythm, just laid in your brain. Then before you know it, somebody say, hey man, I got some Coke. Back in the subliminal chambers, or the subconscious chambers, the subliminal suggestions say, Coke is it. What is that perfume you got on, sister? Opium. My wife brought the damn thing home. I said, what is that you got there, girl? She said, honey, it's opium. I said, I don't want it in my house. It suggests something. The children looking at their mama. What's that you got on, mommy? Smells so sweet, darling. It's opium. Smell it, honey. Does it smell nice? Oh, mommy, can I have some? Oh, sure, baby. They're conditioning your minds for opium down the road. But you can't see this. You don't know this enemy. So when somebody knows him and points him out to you, say he's a hate teacher. He cutting your hair off in a V shape down in the back of your neck. See, it looked like the hair of the crotch, but you can't see that. So when you walk with your hair cut off in a V shape, any man that looks and walks behind you, he's getting the idea of a crotch. You men with these damn little things hanging off the back of your head, you don't know what you do. It's rough, ain't it? Put you on a coat and it got two buttons right there on the cheek. And as you move and you know you ain't got no foundation on, so you just move. And the buttons are just jumping. Any man walking behind you, he sees motion and it attracts his attention. His mind is right on your buttons. And you know what I'm talking about. How in the hell can we build anything decent when you are being bombarded with filth and you sisters love the damn thing? Because it makes you think you are something now because a man is looking at your backside. Hell no, you ain't nothing when a man is looking at your backside. Why the hell you want to attract a man to your backside when you can attract him to your mind? What's wrong with you? Excuse me for talking like this. Your backside ain't no different from somebody else's backside. We can explore that in a short amount of time. And after we explore that and find out that it ain't but so many feet wide or short or long, then a man moves on to another backside. How the hell can you keep your husband like that? Go ahead, brother. But you let the white man make a piece of meat out of you. That's why there's no control. Because you want him out of control so that you can control him. That's a hell of a thing. Woman want to control a man. You can't control him with that.
And if you do, how in the hell can you love him? You can't love no man that you control with your body, sister. Once you got a man that you control with your body and you use your body to tell him come today and go tomorrow, be here tomorrow night, same time, same thing, and bring the money with you. Then the man that you ultimately end up with is a man that whooped the hell out of you. Shut up. Call you one of them female dogs and smack you down. That's the kind of man you end up loving. Because any good man that you get, you want to make him a dog. Where there are no decent women, there are no decent men. And there ain't hardly a damn decent woman nowhere to be found in the wilderness of North America. Now, am I wrong? No, I ain't wrong. Sister, I don't talk like this because I don't like you. I love you. But I'm hurt all down inside because I see a 9-year-old girl with breasts and a 9-year-old girl with menses. And I see men drooling because they can't control the older woman. A man 30, he can't marry no woman near his age because he can't handle her. He got to go find him something that just come out of school or trying to go to school. He got to get something that don't know nothing so he can teach her. And after he start teaching her, in a few days she get tired of him. It's a sad, sick thing that fathers now are going with their little girls. Can't wait for the mother to leave the house before the father called the little daughter in the room. Say, this is a secret between me and you, baby. Don't tell your mama. You don't know, brothers. But if you were to ask black women how many of them have been messed over by their fathers, by their uncles, by their brothers, you'd be surprised. A woman can't even think a decent thought about a man because all the men she ever met were dogs. That's a hell of a thing. And gonna call me an anti-Semite because I point out that the Jews that control Hollywood.
Go ahead, brother.
I don't control no Hollywood, brother.
Go ahead.
The Jews tell you quick, that's theirs. Who making these movies? You can't even go to a movie. Take your children to a movie. It's a MF this, a son of a B that, and F you this, and your mother this. Your children sitting there with you. Explicit sex on the screen. Years ago when they had a scene, you would see two people embrace, kiss, then you get nature scenes so you can try and understand what was going on with the sun getting dark and the moon coming up, water running. Not today. No water here, no moon, nothing. They show them undressing, naked. Huh? Bold display of sex. How in the hell can a little child sitting there see people moaning and groaning under something that seems so nice? Well, I need to experience that myself if it's that good. How can a child 10 years old control its sexuality when grown men and women 40 and 50 are losing control? You understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. All your passions are eating you up. You like a people on fire, burning up in heat. Our women are like heat in heat, man. And they burning up like ovens. The brothers is in like dogs in heat, man. They wild, crazy. I mean, I'm not trying to be smart, brother, but you're being controlled, man. And as long as you got your mind on a behind, how you gonna think for your success, for your independence, for your liberation? You know he got you.
He puts them movies out. This ain't just affecting you. It's affecting all of America. Who makes the alcohol? Who are the big alcohol merchants? Come on! Who's Mr. Bronfman? Shintless. You the drunkards. You the drunkards. You like the best liquor. Alcohol is killing the American people. It's killing you on the highways. It's killing you in your homes. But every week you buy it. And the merchant that's producing it is getting rich. The cigarette is killing you in your lungs. Now they got a fight going on. Because Elijah Muhammad taught us over 40 years ago. He didn't want none of his followers smoking, and we put it down. And people said we were crazy over 50 years ago. And now you begin to see that Elijah Muhammad was right on it, because the Arab world, the Islamic world, they smoke like fiends. Little children over there in Egypt, in Syria where we were, in Libya where we were, little children smoking cigarettes, and you can look in their face and see they've aged. Their eyes reflected the poison of the weed is killing them. Who are the merchants of the big tobacco companies? Jews. I don't say that it's just Jews, but they're involved heavily. They're involved in the pornography. They're involved in Hollywood filth. They're involved in the record industry. Did you see Patti LaBelle the other night? Now, Patti LaBelle is the singingest woman alive today. Patti LaBelle don't have to show her breasts with the talent that woman got. She don't have to slit her dress almost up to her damn crotch to step through. I didn't want to see Patti LaBelle's crotch. I wanted to hear the woman sing. I didn't want to see her breasts. I ain't no damn baby. I left the breasts a long time ago. Why she got to undress her breasts for me and for you and for your children? Who makes them like this? Now tell me I'm crazy. Who made Tina Turner like that? Where that filthy Mick Jagger could just pull off her clothes on universal television, showing you that the black woman is a whore. And any man can get you, because a white man could step up to one of your black stars and undress her in front of the whole world, and you ain't open your damn mouth. Because you're dead. Rap artists coming out on the stage in a doggone diaper, pulling their private parts out on stage, and people sitting there with their wives, and they don't drag that nigga down and break his neck. You know why? Because you become pigs. Human pigs who love filth and hate cleanliness. Look at you. Anybody tell a dirty joke, you listen all night, but you're tired now. The minister, he's been going long enough. I didn't mean to get off like this, brothers and sisters. I'm just going to complete this portion. I'm going to complete this portion. And I'll put a pin in this subject for next week. Look, beloved, look. You see, when God starts forming a person for His glory, it is a marvelous thing to see, to understand what is going on. He takes a person and He chooses them, and He don't choose them because they're smart. He chooses them because they got the right kind of heart for His service. The scripture says, God tries the reins of the hearts. He can search the innards of a person, and He knows best where to place His message. I can look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and when he was taught by Master Farad Muhammad, And Master Farad Muhammad left him 3.5 years into the mission and went away. He left Elijah Muhammad with guidance, but he left him room in that guidance so he wouldn't become robotic. He allowed him to go over here and stub his toe, and go over here and stub his toe. And through trial and error, he discerned the correctness of the guidance. He's forming a person. He forms him with truth, and he forms him just like you do iron. When you chip it away from the rock, you got to take it and put it in fire. When you put it in fire and separate it, it forms a hard mass of fire. Fire now. Back to fire. Then you take that fire and you take your hammer and you beat it into the shape that you want it. When you beat it into the shape that you want it, you cool it with water. And you have a fine metal instrument. When God wants to forge an instrument, as Isaiah the prophet said, I will make for you a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth. When it bites you, you bit it. But if he's going to make it, he's got to blow on it. He's got to put it on the anvil and beat it. He's got to put it in fire and burn it and then form it. So he said he formed man from the dust of the earth. It's marvelous. The Quran says he fashioned him and made him complete. Fashioned, shaped him. And the way God shapes you for his service is with trial and tribulation that's like beating you. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm saying this, that when you want to become a God, you have to submit to God. When you don't know God, he has to reveal himself. When he reveals himself to you and you are sure that he is who he is, you submit. When you submit to him, that's the first act that you must perform in order for him to make you. You must submit. Now you're fire, but if you submit to God, he will give you that which will enable you to control every aspect of your passion so that you become a whole person. But while you are forming, it's a steady trial and tribulation and beating and pounding to get you into the shape that he is ready for you now to put you before the world. I'm saying that to say this, and I don't want you to think that Farrakhan is dealing in vanity or self-conceit. But I was a good child. I loved you from a tender age. I was in love with black people.
Right.
I had a marvelous black mother. The color of this sister sitting right here, real dark and beautiful. Not very highly educated, but very wise. And that woman, with a stern discipline, and her love for me in a way that I never knew she loved me till I was grown. Because she showed me love in a way that I could not readily understand it. We understand love by the tender embrace. I love you, baby. But she showed me love in a different way. She broke my neck when I did the wrong thing. And there were 3 lessons that I learned growing up that I shall never forget. When I was a young boy, 13, my mother bought me a new suit for Easter. And I was out in Fenway Park in Roxbury showing off with the boys. And a little white boy was there fishing in a creek. And he pulled his pole up out of the creek, and when he snapped it, a little of the water from the creek fell on my new suit. That white boy didn't do anything to me. I had a little metal bracelet and I took it off and put it over my hand. And I walked up to the white boy and said, look, man, you dirtied my clothes, you know. And I hit him with that metal bracelet. And to this day, I remember that because it was an unjust action on my part. Even though he's the children of those who enslaved my fathers, he had done nothing personally to me. And I had no right, for vanity's sake, wasn't a justified reason, but to show off to my boys, which I may never have done it if I was alone. I struck him. I don't know whether I broke his jaw. But it bothered me. Long after that, it bothered me. And so inwardly, I know that there is a justice that God put in me, along with my love of black people, that I cannot do any man, white or black, harm unless it's justified. Hear me now. I was a young boy at 10 years old. This is 13, but this other incident that impressed itself on my life, I was 10 years old. And a friend of mine, I went to his home with my cousin. And he had a pearl-handled knife. It was a pretty knife. And I took the knife that night, stole it, put it in my pocket, went home. And my friend, who is dead now, came to my home the next day and asked me about that knife. And I lied to him, said I saw it, but I didn't take it, I left it there. But I had it in my pocket. After that boy left, I was sick with myself because I lied and I stole. And from the time I was 10 years old, I ain't never stole nothing. That was the first and the last time I ever put my hand on something that did not belong to me. Some of you haven't learned that lesson yet. My last point is, I was 16 years old, growing into my young manhood, and there was a little girl that really liked me. And we had this affair, whatever that means. And I was so proud of this affair, you know. I was telling all my friends this night in an apartment on the first floor. She was outside the window listening. When I knew that that girl heard me, I felt so bad that to this day I carry the pain of that experience. And from that day to this, I don't listen to nobody talking about how they misuse the woman. I don't respect nobody that talks about or misuses women. And from that day to this, I have never misused a woman. Now, I say that to say this. There are lessons in life that all of us go through. The question is, when you go through them, do you learn from them? And do they impress themselves on your character so that you become a different kind of person as a result of that experience? I'm saying that I learned from those lessons. And they help to mold the kind of character that I have. Through my music, I learned to love humanity. Not just black people were my focus, but all humanity I learned to love. But when I became a Muslim, under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and under the tutelage of Malcolm X, my focus narrowed down totally to black people. Totally. I didn't know I was being formed then. I didn't know. Always envy surrounded me in my upbringing. bringing. Whenever I would win the talent show or appear on television and whatnot, I always wanted to share what I had with my friends, and I found when I go to the pool room, they would, look a little different at me, and envy start coming in when you start being separated from your friends for your gifts and your talents. And each one of us has to learn how to handle envy, especially when it comes from one of your own. In your own family, it's worst of all when you got a brother or sister that envies you, and it's hard as hell when it comes in your organization and in your people. Malcolm had to understand, as I mentioned last week, what envy and jealousy do. It is a fire that can burn you, but if you're being formed by God, he uses the fire to beat you into shape. Malcolm was envied by so many who claimed to be his brothers. They hated him because he was so brilliant. They hated him because he was so popular. They hated him because he enjoyed the love of Elijah Muhammad even more so than even the children of the messenger. That's true. They hated him for that. When the time came that Malcolm had to be spanked by his teacher, and all the time the messenger was directing heat to him, through the jealousy of the people, they were putting heat on Malcolm. How does Malcolm respond to the fire? Envy is a passion, but it also produces anger, which is another passion. These two fires can cancel each other out if you are not developed enough to control your anger to save the object that is envying you. Oh, it's a hell of a story, brother. It's a heck of a story. Malcolm lost his life because he became angry with his teacher. And in that anger, he lost the ability to reason with what he was fighting against. And he was killed, assassinated. I'm not going to say Muslims had nothing to do with it, but I'm going to say the government had more to do with it than Muslims, though we may have been very well involved. But two innocent men were in prison. One of them just released, one of them still in prison for a crime they did not commit, because it was necessary for the government to show that Muslims had killed Malcolm, so that those who loved Malcolm would fight against those who loved Elijah Muhammad, and we would cancel each other out. I didn't know that Elijah Muhammad was forming me all the time, because I walked in Malcolm's shoes. And you don't know a man, brother and sister, until you walk some way in his shoe. None of you on the outside of Malcolm, on the outside of the nation, can appreciate what that means when I say I walked in Malcolm's shoes. You can't appreciate that because you had no relativity to Elijah Muhammad except a distant relativity. But I walked in Malcolm's shoes because I grew to become the national spokesman of Elijah Muhammad. You hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And as the more I spoke for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I gained the love of the masses of black people, but the envy and the scorn of many of my brothers and sisters who labored with me inside the movement.
Yes, sir.
And there came a time in my development where I thought that Elijah Muhammad was at the base of the problem. And in my own thinking, I thought, is he jealous of me, his student? Well, that's a vain thought in a student's mind. It could be real, but it could be vain. For why should a teacher who made you be jealous of you? It could be teachers get like that sometimes. But if a teacher gets like that, he's unfit to be a teacher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's certainly not divine.
Yes, sir.
But I saw into Elijah Muhammad after a while what I didn't see when I was going through all that pain. That pain was terrible, to see brothers eating me up. And I never did nothing that I know of to any of them. I worked to fill up their mosques, and then they would teach the people against me. I would bring money, mountains of it, to the nation of Islam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To have people talk about me. I fed most of these that were the laborers here in Chicago. We fed them from New York. But they hated me. Oh, but Allah is God, and He always has a plan, and His plan is greater than the plan of the envious and the jealous and the weak-hearted. But I didn't know Elijah Muhammad like I thought I did. And I began to think devious thoughts about my teacher until I told you last week he talked about that piece of board. That when you're going to use a piece of board to hold up the weight of a building, put it in the corner, you got to put a lot of stress on the board. And if it cracks, you throw it away and get another, because a cornerstone has to be very greatly tried. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's why in the Bible, when you read about Jesus, the cornerstone, you read about a tried stone. You got to be tried. And any of you that are Masons, you know that's what you say. I've been tried and never denied, and I'm willing to be tried again. Because trials, according to the Quran, purify you. They get you ready for service. My brothers ate my flesh. And in 1975, when Elijah Muhammad departed from us, there was an open season on Louis Farrakhan. Because Imam Warithuddin, as he ascended to the heights of leadership, the love in the masses of the people was for me. He was an unknown quantity.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So envy and jealousy caused them to remove me from New York. They didn't want me in a base of power, because anytime a man can go out and 70,000 black people come out to him, he got a base of power in that city. And whenever I moved in New York, it was like God moving in Harlem. When I walked in Harlem, this is the God's honest truth, brother. The junkies would come out from where they were with their hands swollen, running to me to shake my hand, and they would wipe their hands on their clothes to shake my hand. They would bring their babies to me and ask me to bless their babies in the street because I was their brother and they knew I was their brother. These are the junkies, the people you think are no people at all. The prostitutes, they love Farrakhan because I love them and I fight for them even though I don't like their lifestyle. But I know it's not their fault. Take me away from that base and brought me to Chicago. And when they brought me to Chicago, they intended for me to die here. Not physically, necessarily, but that too, if I had gotten out of line.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Finally, like the brothers of Joseph, they put me in a pit. But they didn't know that God was in the pit with me. And when I started, everybody laughed.
Yes, sir.
Some of you in this room were with me today hated me just a few years ago because you thought I was an enemy of Allah, an enemy of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and an enemy of the Imam. With all the Imam has said against me, I have never inspired one Muslim to say one negative thing about that man. I am like David, that even though Saul was after me and threw his spear at me, in the night I visited him and could have killed him, but I did not do it to show that I love the king and the king's son.
Yes, sir.
He's my father's son, and I would not allow nobody to do him no harm while I'm alive.
Yes, sir.
This is the kind of man that they hated. I lost my religion. I mean, I went totally out. I threw away the Bible and the Quran. Lessons, everything. I didn't want nothing to do with no God, no religion, no nothing during that period. And I started traveling the world. And the more I traveled, the more I saw the rightness of Elijah Muhammad. So I came back and I decided, by the grace of God, to rebuild his work. And I say that to you to say this. I resubmitted myself to God. I did not know how I was going to do it, but I had faith that it could be done. I'm saying to you, beloved, if you want to grow into godliness, if you want to grow into the path of God, you have to submit to the teacher from God. And you have to exhibit the faith and the complete trust and confidence in God enough so that you will get out of the boat and walk on the water. Now, what was the problem with Jesus' disciples? What was the problem? What was it? They didn't have no faith. Jesus kept telling them, look, what I do, you can do. All the things that Jesus did, he told Peter, all of them, you can do the same thing I do. You just got little faith. When he got out of the boat and started walking on the water, he looked back and said, Peter, come on. See, boats are kept up by the law of buoyancy. And when you're on a boat that is under the law of buoyancy, there's a fair degree of security on the water. There ain't no security when you step out of the boat and try to walk. But they saw Jesus walking on the water. Now listen, this is all symbolic. It means something. Ain't nobody walked on the water. He said, Peter, come on. And as long as Peter kept his eye on him, he was doing all right. When Peter began to say, damn, look, I'm walking. Peter began sinking. The idea is your confidence has to be so much in the master that you don't look at yourself and think about you. You think about the master.
Yes, sir.
And your desire to walk after him. And you start doing impossible things.
Yes, sir.
I say that to say this. Faith and submission, along with patience, are prerequisites to ultimate victory over self.
Yeah.
Are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Submission, number one. Faith, and then patience.
Yeah.
Oh, look, brother and sister, I'm almost finished. When I said I believe in God, the Quran says, does men think they'll say they believe and will not be tried? Anytime you say you believe in God, do you expect to be tried? Didn't Jesus give you a parable of these different hearts that received the truth? One of them, the truth fell by the wayside. I mean, you receive the truth with joy, and the wicked one comes, snatches it right out of you. Another one received it on stony ground, which means that it didn't take fertile root, and the cares of the world, and by and by persecution comes on account of the word, and the weeds and the thorns grow and choke out the seed, and it becomes unprofitable. It's the way many of you are. You can accept the thing as long as you don't have to pay no price for it. But when you got to pay a price for what it is you want out of life, you find out how little you really want it. When I used to play the violin in my grade school, little boys would come up to me and say, man, how you play the violin like that? How long have you been playing? I said, 8 years. They said, how long will it take me to play like you, brother? I said, well, nearly the same. He walked away. Because he ain't got patience to work hard at something long enough to become good at it. What do you want? Quick fix? Do you think freedom is an overnight thing, brother? Sister, do you think we can straighten out a problem that it took 400 years to make in one day, in 1 week, in 1 generation? This is a long time struggle. But it's going to take sacrifice, isn't it? Yes, all right. I gave up, in the first instance, my music, my life in the world to follow Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. I gave up the second time to rebuild this. I gave up a personal life, which was nothing. And I decided to jump down on this work of rebuilding the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I knew I could be killed because the atmosphere was such of hostility that I could have been killed in the first year of this work. Now, brothers and sisters, when a man or woman knows that they can be snuffed out and does something, do you think they're doing it for money? See, most preachers that preach, they ain't under no constraints about nobody killing them. Every preacher that you see got a big congregation out here. Go in and listen to what they're preaching. I'm not saying they ain't preaching nothing, because they got to be preaching something if they got all them people. But yeah, they got some people. But they're not preaching against this government. They're not preaching anything controversial. They're not taking stands on heavy issues. So they live in relative comfort. Look at this now. Most preachers, is this true? We ride nice cars, live in nice homes, live in relative comfort. The congregation catch hell. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal. Everything is comfortable for the preacher, but the preacher got to learn to make things comfortable for the flock. Okay? Now the scripture says, all that a man hath will he give for his life. For the first 4 or 5 years, some of you can bear me witness, I ain't asked the people for no money.
That's right.
Is that right? Come on with it.
Right.
How much money did I ask you for to put this building here?
Nothing.
How much money did I ask you for to refurbish the building? No, I didn't ask you for nothing. I did it myself. You know why I did it like that, brother? Writers? Because I ain't no damn thief. I don't want your money. I want you to stand up like a man, stand up like a woman, stand up for your people, stand up for the liberation of all of us. That's what I want. Where did you get the money from, Farrakhan? I was a hot commodity.
Right.
I was wanted on college campuses around this country. I went on college campuses where they paid me from $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 for a lecture. And I would take the money and ask them, I give them the money when they need it.
Yes, sir. That's true.
And I used the money to build a nation and mortgage my house. Ain't asked you for nothing. So if I ask you for something today, don't open your mouth, open your pocket and back me up. I bought a new suit in 1975. I didn't buy another one until nearly 1979. And then I realized I wasn't keeping myself up. So I started buying a few little suits so I could look decent as I began to teach more. That nigga down there, he just want to rob the people. Rob you of what? You ain't got nothing. What can a man rob you of? Some of you don't have sense. But if you hang out with us a while, you have that and then some money. When I first started ministering here, I didn't see no new cars nowhere. Ain't nobody had a car. Everybody raggedy. But I look out there, I see you got new cars now. See, you living better. You doing better. Somebody teaching you better. All praise is due to Allah. Now look, brothers and sisters, I'm not saying it to blow no horn for me, but I'm not a robber. when this thing started getting up off the ground, brothers and sisters, 7 years I wouldn't even talk to the press. Notice now, they say Farrakhan's a creature of the press. If I was, the press would have broke me. Because that's the aim of the press, is to destroy me, but they found out they couldn't destroy me because you didn't make me, and therefore you can't break me. Ain't nothing you can do with me. Nothing. I really don't care what you write. You can't affect me anyway, just spell my name right. I really don't give a damn, I'm telling you straight up. I don't give a damn what you think about me. Write whatever the hell you want to write. Say whatever you want to say. I'm going to be the winner over you. In the end, you're going to be with me if you're alive. I'll outlast your words. I'm independent of your pen. Yes, I am. I'm telling you straight up. 7 years you couldn't even talk to me. I wouldn't talk to you, none of you. Give you no interview, that was out of the question. Now they say, well, he's just a freak for the press. He likes the press. He manipulates the press. No. My name ain't somebody else. I don't calculate no headlines. I don't make headlines. I just tell the truth. Now the last point I'm going to make is, for the last 3 weeks I've been meeting with top religious leaders in this city. They want to know, Farrakhan, what are you doing? I mean, what's the reason for this? A lot of pressure on the mayor, a lot of pressure on us, the Jews. I mean, they coming down on us. What is this? I said, well, when they got finished, I said, brothers, I said, love got me into this. If I didn't love Jesse, and if I wasn't fighting for his life, I wouldn't be in this problem with the Jews. But if I were not in this problem with the Jews, we wouldn't really see things as they really are. But I want you to see, brothers and sisters, that all your giants are fleas. They're not midgets. They are fleas. Hear me well. I'm not speaking bad about Mr. Johnson and Johnson Products. And I don't agree with Mr. Streeter that we should not buy his products. Because that black brother is in business and he's a good man. And those of us who condemn him don't really know the circumstances under which that man operates. Can I tell you something? You drive by there, you see that big Johnson plant, right? You don't know how much he owes. You see Ultra Sheen. You don't know the mathematics behind it. That man could have made $90 to $100 to $150 million in a year if they didn't rob him. He had the best hair straightening formula, not that I'm for any hair straightening, but he had the best formula. What they did, they took his formula, they copied it. Then they made him put on his label, could be hazardous or something. And they didn't make Revlon do that, so Revlon took the market from Mr. Johnson. When you go into the stores, Mr. Johnson's products are over here, Ultra Sheen's products over there, but the white boys' products are displayed most prominently. They look out for their own. Now, whether you know it or not, nearly 70% of Mr. Johnson's business is distributed by Jews. Did you hear me? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, once Farrakhan becomes a bad nigger, if you pardon the expression, And Mr. Johnson was going to make the products for power, which would have increased his bottom line. If we sold 100,000 jars of toothpaste or tubes of toothpaste and roll on deodorant and whatnot, how much money would that mean to Mr. Johnson if we sold it in a month or 2 months or 3 months? Every time we sell more and more and more our product, Mr. Johnson gets more and more money because he's the manufacturer. Mr. Johnson for the last 3 years has been in the red. And because Mr. Johnson wanted to help black people, you hear me? Yes, sir. And help himself in the process, he stepped out there with us on power. Well, he didn't know Farrakhan was going to say what he said. He didn't know that Gaddafi was going to come to Savior's Day, be our guest. Because Farrakhan don't ask them for their permission to do these things. I do what I think should be done. It's a great feeling, man, to be free. When you don't owe nobody nothing. A wonderful feeling. But let me say this. The moment them white boys put that thing in Crane's business report saying that Mr. Johnson was really the one taking the money from Gaddafi. See how they did that? That's wickedness. That's wickedness. You know why? There are many American businesses doing business with Libya right now. And ain't nobody censured none of those oil companies that are doing business with Libya, pipe companies, pipelines and whatnot they're building for Libya, homes that they're building for the Libyan people. They're being built by American companies. Nobody's saying nothing. Mr. Johnson hasn't taken a dime from Libya. Mr. Johnson got a promise of some money that came from Libya through Louis Farrakhan to him. Now the Jews jumped on Mr. Johnson and said, Mr. Johnson, I understand you making this product for this anti-Semite. See that? How would you like it if I distributed a product for the Ku Klux Klan? Well, he's doing that right now. The man that called him probably was a member of the Klan or some other anti-black movement. You ain't never questioned B'nai B'rith. They don't have no blacks on the board of B'nai B'rith. Anti-Defamation League. All y'all do is clean their office. They don't have you in their meeting. They said to Mr. Johnson, if you make that product, not only will we hurt you in distributing your product, but we will take your product off of the retail shelves. What could Mr. Johnson do? If he stood up and said, go to hell, he could have done that. How would you have helped him? Were you strong enough to back him up? It could have been done. Suppose when they attacked him, Jesse came. Since he's a longtime friend of Reverend Jackson. Suppose Jesse said, let's hold a press conference. You know they would come to hear what Jesse had to say. And Mr. Jesse Jackson could have defended Mr. Johnson, saying that he's not anti-Semitic. He's not a Ku Klux Klaner. He's not a wicked man. And why should he be punished for trying to increase the bottom line of his business when that's what a man is in business for? If those who have benefited from Mr. Johnson, and many in the city of Chicago have benefited from that man's charity, because he bankrolled a lot of people around here, why the hell didn't they come out and stand up for him and say, Mr. Johnson is not this, and we're not going to let you do this to him? If we made enough noise, they'd have backed off, but we punk out. When one of us get in trouble with Jews, the rest of us get back, lay in the cut. Hey, I'm gonna see how you get out of this. I ain't getting too close to him. It's like I got some kind of AIDS now. People don't want to come and hear anything that comes from my mouth. Minister got AIDS. So Negroes and black people that were supposed to be with me yesterday, they packing away now. Let's see how Farrakhan get out of this. Why would you say that? Because you envious? I didn't make this happen. Somebody bigger than me made it happen. I didn't go out there and say, let there be 19,000 people in Los Angeles. That ain't never happened, brother and sister. It didn't happen in the days of Garvey, but it's happening today. What is the matter? Why can't you take it? It's one of your brothers. Why are you upset? Now he's attacking them Jews. Let's see how he get out of this. I'm gonna get out of it. Whether you all are with me or not don't mean a damn thing to me. I'm gonna win this one with the help of the God that I believe in, and I will prove to you that God is God and there is no God but Him. There's nothing about your help. So you look. When the Jews attacked me, I didn't come to none of you and ask you to stand with me. Right. Brother, you gonna stand with me? Right. Sister, you gonna stand with me? I'm in trouble now. I don't need your help. I want it. But like brother said, he said it right, it ain't my trial. Right. It's y'all's trial today. Right. I'm just gonna sit back and watch you. Because see, brother, I gotta say this, Nate. See, there were scribes writing when Nat Turner was talking. There were scribes writing when VC was talking. When Prosser was talking. When David Walker was on trial, scribes were writing. When Booker T and W.E.B. were arguing with each other, the scribes were writing. When Marcus Garvey stood up and Noble Drew Ali, the scribes were writing. But the black people weren't wide awake then, like you all are now. So God could forgive them, because they didn't know what you know. But there ain't no escape for none of you. Because you looking at history, and you know I'm innocent of what they charged me with. You know I'm an innocent man. So it ain't my trial no more. Nate, it's your trial. It's your sister. It's all your trial. Let me see how you act in court. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you don't speak up, there's a whole lot watching. If you think because I'm besieged that like a snake you can come out in the flood and start biting your brother because you feel he may become the preeminent leader of black people, and we don't want that to happen because why? We ain't got no dialogue with Farrakhan. We don't go to Farrakhan's house and sit down and have dinner with him. We don't go to parties with Farrakhan. He don't smoke no reefer with us. He don't drink no beer with us. He ain't been in no damn house of prostitution with us. I ain't never brought no woman to him in the wee hours of the morning for him to lay up with. So I don't know nothing about the man. He ain't connected with me, so I don't want him to get no power because he's independent of all of us. Because he make his way in the world and he don't beg us for nothing. See, when you submit to God, you put your trust in Him. And you rely on Him. And you put your confidence in Him. So I conclude by saying, they said, Farrakhan, you ought to cool it. They say, Farrakhan, what you're saying is true, but is it expedient? Is it timely? If the masses of the people are rising to this, it must be timely. And if the masses who don't respond to no black leader are responding, it must be necessary. You got to see that Johnson Products is a flea. It exists by the mercy of white business. Johnson Publishing is a giant to you, but a flea to white folk. Anytime they want it, they stamp it out and crush it and keep on walking. Motown is a flea. Seaway Bank, the #1 black bank in the country, is a flea. A flea. These are your giants. You bow down to them. Here comes Mr. Johnson. Oh. But who does Mr. Johnson bow down to? These are your giants, but when they get in corporate America, they become like little pussycats. You don't hear no damn roaring out of them, because they can't roar upstairs. They only roar in the ghetto where niggas live, because niggas is pussycats, and these are big Tom pussycats. Ain't a damn lion nowhere in the bunch. They don't fight for you because they can't. I called them this week executive slaves. 3-piece suit wear, flying in jet plane, summer house in Florida slaves. Because when the white boy threatened your behind, you bow down, go shaking and whatnot. And you know what they're there for? Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson. Motown, Seaway, Independence, Carver, all black businesses exist at the mercy of whites to teach little blacks the lie that the system works. And as it worked for us, it will work for you. And these men are calculated to become big niggers. That's in their calculation. They have big nigger category. And they roll the dice and your name comes up. We're going to make you a big nigger. That's what they did overnight. They said, we're going to make the refrigerator. Overnight. Look, that's a big, wonderful brother, isn't he? But I feel sorry for the brother. Because when he don't make it, if he drops a ball in the end zone during the Super Bowl and they lose it, then they're going to eat refrigerator up. And then all this publicity that helped them to be the #1 talk of the nation, showing you that white boys can make you when they want to make you, break you when they want to break you, except you're made by God. They are hurt now because they allowed me to television. They are hurt now because they tried to break me so far they can't do it. And by the help of Allah, they won't. And so I say to you, it is better that I speak and let the pressure be put on Mr. Johnson and on other blacks so that you will not be deceived, thinking that there are any giants out here. The giant is white folks. Now, you know, I say this and got to go. There was a giant. There was a giant in the days of David. His name was Goliath. And the giant was so bad till all Israel shook and trembled because of the giant. But God impressed on David faith. Faith. Not logic. Faith. See, logic means you must be practical and pragmatic. Yes, safe, yeah. Safe. Above all, safe. So if we dealt with logic, we wouldn't even start. Because logically, we can't do nothing against white folk. My brother told me yesterday that the Jew is 4 things. He's the ultimate in organization.
That's right, brother.
He's powerful in terms of money and the ability to inflict pain. He's wicked and he's sick. He's all four of these things. So the subtle suggestion was, Farrakhan, you need to reassess what you're doing with a man that's the ultimate in organization, powerful, sick, and wicked. If he's all of that, he's the devil. If he's ultimate in organization, powerful, sick, and wicked, we're dealing with the real devil. Oh, if that's so, then what you got to be afraid of if you're with God? Reverend, you preach God, but you don't believe in it. Some of the preachers are the biggest hypocrites of all because they want safe religion. They really don't believe in God. So when they tell me your logic is off, Farrakhan, because you're tangling with the baddest thing on earth with nothing. You ain't got the ultimate in organization. You know, the Nation of Islam is very loosely organized, you understand? And you sure ain't got no money. Them $5 million that, you know, Gaddafi loaned you, you can't fight these people with that. And you know what I mean? You may be kind of sick too, they didn't say that. But your sickness is that you think you can deal, and you may be righteous and got integrity, but integrity don't mean nothing when your judgment is off. And look like to me your judgment is off when you're going to tackle this big giant. See, that's the way David's brothers thought. They all looked at the giant and they said, oh, this can't be done. Even the king, Saul, said, we can't handle this. David said, I'll take care of it. He said, let me at him, Saul. Saul looked at the little boy and said, boy, get back. Get back, boy. But they didn't know what faith could do. See, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. I know most Negroes don't even believe in what they see, much less believe in what is unseen, because if you believed in what you're looking at, you would know that God is with me. If you could just look at what you've been seeing, you would know that there's a power with me. It ain't Farrakhan. Farrakhan is very insignificant in this drama. He's an instrument that somebody powerful is using.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So David finally, Saul said, you think you can get him? And David said, yeah, I think I can get him. He said, well, try on my stuff. Here, look. Take my sword, David. Try on my armor. David tried it on. He said, no, this ain't going to work for me. Brothers tell me, you know, you got to wear a gun. You got to buy you your piece, man. You got to load up and get ready. This thing is going to get hot. I said, I can't use that stuff. I just picked up 5 smooth stones from a brook, and my little slingshot. And I'm aiming for the head.
Go ahead. That's right.
And the head is the Jew. He's the head of this thing. And the thing that I'm fighting him with is these words. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the beneficent, the merciful. That's why I told all the preachers that I met, I said, I will be glad to meet with the black leaders and explain my position and hear their advice. But if I don't take their advice, and I don't think I will, because the faithless cannot advise the faithful. I say, you all stand to the side or fight me along with them. I'm prepared either way it go. If the black leaders fight me, it's all right. You join with the enemy and fight me, you can do that too. But the masses are watching. And you will be made to pay a horrible price. Because these youngsters, they're different. These are the gangbangers. They're terrible.
Yes, sir.
See how easily they kill?
Yes, sir.
They just don't know who to kill just yet. So they kill one another. But they got the spirit to kill. Oh yeah? They don't care nothing about mama or daddy. Grandmama, that's wrong. But that's your spirit.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going on with this struggle. And I believe with all my heart that I'm going to be the winner in the name of God. And even though you may back away from me now because of a little fear, when you see God making me victorious over my enemies and yours, you can sneak out from behind the bush, wherever you hiding, and get a little courage and stand up like a real man and a real woman. I've never been your enemy. I have always been the friend of black people. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Nate Clay has written articles disagreeing with me. I love this man like my own flesh and blood brother. Because I love a man that got the courage to say what he really believes is right. Because that kind of man can help me to perfect myself. Yes, man, no man needs. Do we need a yes person? No. But if you tell me that I shouldn't go forward in this struggle, I would ask you, what would you have me do? Would you have me call a press conference tomorrow and say, I'm sorry? Forgive me. It was not a mistake of the heart. It was a mistake of the head. Would you want me to say that? Would you want me to apologize to white folks and tell them the things that I said about Jews and their manipulation of the media, their manipulation of black artists, their manipulation of black entertainers, black athletes, their blood sucking of the masses of the people? I was mistaken. Would you want me to capitulate like Henry Ford did and actually pay the Jews money for telling the truth on them? Would you want me to call a press conference? Would you stand with me in such press conference, Khaled? You wouldn't stand with me in a press conference like that. Would you stand with me in a press conference like that, son? No, sir. You heard what my son said? Say it again, son. No, sir. You wouldn't stand with me if I punked out? My son said, Daddy, you be a punk by yourself. That's the way I trained him. I trained him, if his father's right, go along with your father. If your father's wrong, you can't go along with him in wrong. Why should he go with me to my death? No, brothers and sisters, this ain't no tactic, no strategy. Unless God himself revealed to me that I should do that, I ain't never gonna do that. Never. And if all of you said either you do it or we walk away, we close the final call building tomorrow. Hell, I was at peace before I met you. And I will be at peace after I leave you if you gonna punk out too. Say, well, we may get killed, but you're gonna die anyway. That ain't no big thing. And the way you going now, you dying quick. So, beloved, if you want to start on the path of God, when you recognize him, submit. When you recognize God, believe. Put your complete trust and confidence in him. When your trials and tribulations come because of your faith in him, don't doubt. Keep on stepping. Just keep walking. Even though you don't know how it's going to turn out, how it's going to come out, believe that it will come out right and keep on stepping.
I say that to Khaled, I say that to Akbar, to all of you, because you're all being tried. And if God is going to use you, brother, he got to whoop them. He got to beat you up. Sometimes he beats you up through crazy people among you. But you got to learn that there's fire in them and there's fire in you, but you can't explode. You got to hold it and let him form you. Take it and let him form you. And I'll tell you frankly, the only reason I can take whatever they say is because he made me. And when God makes a product, what he does, he puts it out there. He said, unbreakable, unbendable. Here, try it. He said, I don't believe that. So you take it and throw it down. Blam. And after you do all of that, you can't break it. And you know that God's word is true. It's unbreakable. Have you ever tried one of them unbreakable records? When they say unbreakable, but you didn't see the small writing under normal use? But when God makes you, you're unbreakable under any circumstance. Now I'm only saying that I believe that we are made by God through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I believe that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad put on me was preparation for what white folks and some of you would put on me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The worst pain of all is for people to reject you. And I'm telling you, like last year, I went over to Push and stood beside Jesse. It was a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. To see the Christians and the Muslims standing together in such a wonderful, that's just a beautiful feeling. Today I couldn't get an invitation to the Push bathroom. Because I got some kind of social sickness. Yeah, called truth in the name of anti-Semitism. So now, my friends, some of them will come and see me by night because they don't want anyone to see them coming to my door by day. But I will take it all. As I told the preachers, I said, Reverend, if anything happens to me, I don't want to see my picture on your wall. I don't want you to do me like you did Malcolm and Martin.
Yes, sir.
Since you didn't have no courage to walk with those men while they lived. You lousy hypocrites, put a picture of them up on your wall as though Malcolm is your man.
Yes, sir.
That's my main man. And you punk out at every turn when it comes to standing up against the oppressor.
Yes, sir.
Hypocrites. They get a picture of me and them together. Then when it's safe, they bring it out when I'm dead, you know, put it on the wall and say to the children, I knew Farrakhan. My main man, he used to sit right here where you sitting, son, and had dinner with me, young son. Great man, I loved him. He was a great guy, I liked him. He's got a sense of humor, too. That's nigger business. Then maybe when it's safe, Alderman Streeter or Dorothy Tillman can put a bill before the city council to name the alley over here between Emerald and Union and call it Louis Farrakhan Alley. Great man, great man. Give him an alley. King was a great nigga, we give him a boulevard. But we trample and we ride over the principles that he believed in. Malcolm was a great man, but we name universities after him and write books after him, but we kill the principle that he lived and died on. Elijah Muhammad, great man. We can praise his name, but we can't lift up his principles. I don't want nothing like that. Damn it, if you can't walk with me alive, forget me. And let your children crush you when I'm gone. I don't want no damn hypocrisy. I don't want no faking and jiving and shucking. You're alive and I'm alive. And you're a contemporary of mine. We are walking together. I don't want no damn punk walking with me. Yes, sir. If you can't walk with me now, 10 years from now, keep my name out of your mouth. If I could come back, I'd stomp you. You know why? Because every one of you are capable of discerning truth from falsehood. Ain't none of you dumb. And I don't speak in no cryptic language that you have to go home and decipher. All of you know what I said. Submit to God. And Muslims and Christians, the object of your life, the goal that you should strive for, is with that faith and that submission and that patience as you go through trial and tribulation, is to make God the exclusive object of your life, where you can say in reality, my prayers, my sacrifice, my life, and my death is all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. This am I commanded. No associate has he. I am of those who bow down. If you, sisters and brothers, want to become masters of yourself and the environment and the forces of destruction, I'm saying bow down, not to Farrakhan, bow down to God. Put your trust and confidence in him and make your life livable for him, your prayers to him, your sacrifice for him, and your death in his behalf. That's my goal. That's the goal of every righteous person. What do you think? I tell you, if you just begin to do this, he'll start working with you. And the strength that you will show yourself, you wouldn't even believe. Sometimes I listen to tapes that I made and I get frightened. I said, did I say that? The Spirit of God will be on me so strong. I will be whooping them, and I don't really know sometimes all that he's guided me to say. So when I listen back, sometimes you hear me in my basement, glad you ain't there. I jump up and applaud. Go ahead, Farrakhan. Look, and it's not that I'm cheering myself. Ain't no self in it. I see a power that's working on me and through me and with me, and it's so moving to me. I say, wow, gone. So, beloved, I thank you for this wonderful day. And if I can, I'll be back on Wednesday night to go deeper into this subject, because I just got to the surface of it today. I want to go to the meat of it on Wednesday if you have the time. If it be the will of Allah, next Sunday, Brother Abdul Kareem Muhammad from New Jersey, remember I promised him? You need to hear this, brother. He'll be here next Sunday. You know where I'll be? If it be the will of Allah, we start our tour of the Caribbean. So Jamaica is our first stop. Already it's humming down in Kingston. I hope they let me in. I hope you take care of it, brother. Yes, sir. But any of you who know that wonderful island of Jamaica, how many of you have ever visited the island of Jamaica? Well, if you know that island, it's a beautiful island with wonderful, wonderful black people down there. And that's my father's home. And it's the home of Marcus Garvey. And though I was born in the United States, it pleases me to go to the Caribbean. Because Elijah Muhammad told me once, what it takes us 6 years to learn, the people down there can learn it in 6 months. They are not as dead mentally as we are up here. So I decided I would stay here 6 years before I ever spent 6 days in the Caribbean. So I've given you nearly 9 years. Now I think I should go to the islands and talk to our brothers and sisters there in Central America, down in Brazil, in South America, Guyana, Suriname, and Brazil. And then we go on to Africa, if it be the will of Allah. How many nations is there on the first trip? We'll hit 13 nations in Africa the first time and 14 the second time, right? And then we go off into Iran. Somebody in Iran that we want to see. In Pakistan, we'll come through the Gulf, go to the Gulf first, then Iran and Pakistan, and then on to China, where we've been invited by the Muslims in China. And we hit Japan and the Philippines, and then come on back. Now one more trip to Africa after that to sew up all of East Africa, Southern Africa. We want to touch that. And everywhere we go, we're going to drop the message. Tapes, free, to over 100, 200,000 people, so that the islands be cooking. Africa cooking. South America cooking. And we're going to come back to the ranch, to the plantation. And beloved, we're going to put you on an assignment before we go. And what I want you to do is to show yourselves and America that this is not the charismatic movement of some nice-talking individual. You must be able to show the world that you can survive and you will carry on even if that man is taken from you. You must never let the man be the center of your movement, but the principles, the center of the movement. If this thing is only dependent on me, then it's all vanity. But if it's dependent on God and on principles that you can follow and keep going, then death or life, nothing will stop the rise of our people. Do you understand that? Yes. I'm not a fool, but I'm saying this with deep humility. I am anxious to prove my love for God and my love for you. Anxious to do it. And if it means death, so help me Allah, I could leave tonight with joy. If Allah demanded that. Because there is no life at all for me unless it is a life to see you free, justified and equal. And I hope you will catch that kind of spirit, where you love yourself and love your people enough that you don't care to live unless you live free. When you're like that, brother and sister, it's very difficult for you to die. It's very difficult for the enemy to kill you. Those who seek to save their lives, what happens? They lose it. But those who are willing to do what? Lose your life for Christ's sake, what will you find? Eternal life. And I believe I have found eternal life. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
That's a subject in itself. But just to give you a peek, if you can tell by the way I look, and I'm a man headed for 53. And if Allah keeps me in His spirit, you can't tell how old I am. So I have found life in abundance on the physical level, but this body must die. But what we represent of truth and right and justice, it's rooted in the universe and it can never, never die. So when people live for those kind of principles, whenever those principles are spoken of, those men's names are remembered in history who are willing to sacrifice for those eternal principles. So righteous people really don't die. The physical flesh goes away from us, we can't see it, but the principles that they live for and give their life for are eternal, and in that they are also eternal. Thank you for listening. May Allah bless you as I greet you in peace. Thanking you for making this a wonderful afternoon for me. I hope it has been for you.